The backyard was alive with the sizzle of burgers on the grill and the laughter of relatives. But I couldn't shake the knot in my stomach. It was Grandpa Robert's 70th birthday barbecue. The kind of gathering that was supposed to mend fences and create memories. Instead, as I watched my son Alex fiddle with the projector screen we'd set up for a family video tribute, I felt an inexplicable dread. He was only 15. But lately, he'd been carrying himself like a man twice his age, quiet, focused, his eyes always scanning the room as if piecing together a puzzle no one else could see. My husband Mark stood by the cooler, nursing a beer, his usual charm dialed down to a tense smile. And my mother, Vivian, flitted around like the perfect hostess, her floral dress swaying as she refilled plates and complimented everyone's outfits. She leaned in a little too close to Mark when she handed him a fresh drink, her hand lingering on his arm just a second longer than necessary. I blinked it away, telling myself it was nothing. But deep down, I knew something was off. The air felt thick, charged, like the calm before a storm. Alex plugged in his laptop, and the screen flickered to life. "This is for you, Grandpa," he said softly, his voice steady but his hands trembling slightly. The music started, gentle acoustic guitar strumming over old family photos. Everyone cooed and clapped as clips of Robert fishing with the grandkids, blowing out candles at past birthdays, and dancing with Grandma before she passed years ago filled the screen. It was heartfelt, pulling at the strings of nostalgia. Vivian dabbed at her eyes dramatically, and Mark shifted uncomfortably in his lawn chair. Then, without warning, the music cut out. The screen went dark for a beat, and when it brightened again, it wasn't family memories. It was raw, handheld footage, shaky, intimate, like something captured in secret. There was Vivian, in our living room, pouring wine into 2 glasses, her laughter low and flirtatious. The camera angle was odd, as if hidden on a shelf. Mark entered the frame, and she pulled him close, their lips meeting in a kiss that made my blood run cold. Gasps rippled through the crowd. I froze, my plastic cup slipping from my fingers, spilling soda onto the grass. The video jumped to another clip, our kitchen at night. Mark whispering something to Vivian as she traced her fingers down his back. "How long?" someone murmured. My sister Jenna covered her mouth, her eyes wide with horror. Robert, my father, sat rigid in his chair, his face paling as the truth unfolded before him. The final segment was the worst, audio of muffled voices. Then clear words, Vivian saying, "She'll never know," and Mark replying, "I can't keep this up forever." The screen faded to black. Silence crashed over us like a wave. No one moved. Alex unplugged the laptop calmly, but his eyes met mine, filled with a mix of defiance and sorrow.
"I'm sorry,
Mom," he whispered. But he wasn't. Not really. He'd done what I couldn't, ripped the veil off the lie that had been poisoning our family. Mark stammered, "Sarah, it's not," but I held up a hand, my voice cutting through the air like a knife. "Don't." Vivian stood there, her perfect facade cracking, tears streaming down her face. Robert turned to her, his voice breaking. My own daughter. With him, the betrayal hit him hardest, his chest heaving as he clutched his arm. Jenna rushed to his side, dialing 911. As the ambulance sirens wailed in the distance, I realized this wasn't just the end of my marriage. It was the shattering of everything I thought I knew about love, trust, and blood. That night, after the paramedics had taken Dad to the hospital for what they called a panic-induced episode, I sat alone on the porch of our suburban Chicago home, the streetlights casting long shadows across the lawn. The house felt empty, even though Emily, my 8-year-old daughter, was asleep upstairs, oblivious to the chaos. Alex had retreated to his room. The door cracked just enough for me to hear the faint hum of his computer. Mark hadn't come home. He'd slunk away from the barbecue without a word, his car peeling out of the driveway like he was escaping a crime scene.
And Vivian?
She'd lingered in the yard, pleading with Jenna and me to listen, but we'd turned our backs. How could you? I'd hissed at her before leaving. Her response, a weak, "It just happened," only fueled the fire in my chest.
Now.
In the quiet, the weight of it all pressed down on me. How had I missed the signs? It started subtly. Months ago, Mark had always been the charismatic type, the sales manager who could charm a room with a smile. But lately, he'd been distant, his late nights at client meetings stretching longer, his phone buzzing with texts he hid from view. I'd chalked it up to work stress, the economy being what it was. We were comfortable, nice house in the suburbs, kids in good schools, but marriage had its ruts. I thought we were just in one. Then Vivian started showing up more often. She lived across town, but suddenly, she was in the neighborhood every other day, arms loaded with baked goods or forgotten items from her last visit. "I thought Mark might like these muffins," she'd say with a wink, knowing his sweet tooth. At first, it seemed harmless, even sweet. She was my mom. After all, the woman who'd raised me single-handedly after Dad's long hours at the factory left her to handle everything. But there was a shift in her energy around Mark. She'd laugh a little too loudly at his jokes, touch his shoulder when passing by, compliment his new haircut with a lingering gaze. I noticed, but I pushed it down. Paranoia. I told myself, "You're imagining things because your own spark with him has dimmed." Alex, though, he saw it all. My boy had always been the observer, the one with the video camera glued to his hand since he was 10. He filmed everything: school projects, family dinners, even random backyard squirrels. "It's for my channel," he'd say, though he never uploaded much. Lately, he'd been lending the camera to Mark, who claimed he wanted to try content creation to unwind. Adult stuff, Mark would brush off when asked. Alex never complained, but I saw the way his jaw tightened each time Mark returned it. One evening, weeks before the barbecue, I found Alex in the garage, hunched over the camera's screen, his face illuminated by the glow. "What are you watching?" I asked casually. He jumped, clicking it off. "Just old footage." His voice was flat, but his eyes darted away. I should have pressed, but I didn't. I was too wrapped up in my own doubts.
Now,
Piecing it back, I realized he'd found fragments, deleted files Mark thought were gone, recovered from the SD card, blurry clips of stolen moments, whispers in the hallway, a hand on a thigh. Alex had stitched them together in secret, building his case like a young detective. Why hadn't he told me? Maybe he thought I wouldn't believe him. Or worse, that I'd forgive them. The thought made my stomach churn. I stood up from the porch, the cool night air biting at my skin.
Inside,
I knocked softly on Alex's door. He opened it, looking older than his years.
"Mom."
"I had to," he said before I could speak. I pulled him into a hug, feeling his shoulders relax for the first time in months. "I know," I whispered. But as I held him, the anger bubbled up, not just at Mark and Vivian, but at myself for being blind. How do you rebuild a family from ashes like these? The next morning, the house phone rang incessantly. Relatives checking in, offering condolences like we'd suffered a death. In a way, we had. The death of illusions. I let it go to voicemail, sipping coffee at the kitchen table where so many of those secret moments had unfolded. Emily bounced in, oblivious, asking for pancakes. "Where's Daddy?" she chirped. I forced a smile. "He's away for a bit. Sweetie. Alex shuffled in later. Dark circles under his eyes. He'd barely slept, he admitted, replaying the barbecue in his head. Did I do the right thing? He asked. Voice small. I nodded firmly. You did what was brave. But inside, I wrestled with the fallout. Dad was home from the hospital. Stable but shattered. Jenna had texted. He's not speaking to Mom. Wants her out. Vivian had crashed at a hotel, bombarding my phone with pleas. Let me explain. It wasn't serious. As if that made it better. Mark's messages were worse, apologies mixed with excuses. I was lonely. She understood me. I deleted them without replying. By afternoon, I drove to Dad's house, leaving the kids with Jenna. He looked frail in his recliner, the blue button-up from the party still hanging in the closet, stained with sauce and memories. Sarah, he said, his voice cracking. We talked for hours about Mom's controlling nature, how she'd always needed to be the center, even after Grandma's passing. I never saw this coming, he admitted. Tears welled in his eyes. Neither did I replied. But had I? Flashes came back. Vivian's unsolicited advice on my marriage. Her concern that Mark worked too hard. Her offers to help while I was at my part-time job at the library. Mark's sudden interest in family time that always included her. The pieces fit now. A twisted mosaic of betrayal. Leaving Dad's, I stopped at the lawyer's office. I'd consulted her weeks ago, sensing the drift in my marriage but not knowing the depth. Grounds for divorce? She'd asked.
Now.
I had plenty: adultery, emotional distress. I signed the papers, my hand steady. On the drive home, rain pattered against the windshield, mirroring the storm inside me. Alex was waiting when I arrived, his camera on the table. I deleted everything, he said. Don't need it anymore. I hugged him again, prouder than ever. But as Emily played in the yard, innocent and free, I wondered, how do you explain to a child that the people who should protect you can be the ones who hurt you most? The sun set, casting orange hues over the neighborhood, and for the first time, the house felt a little less haunted. Weeks blurred into a tense routine. The divorce proceedings kicked off with a mediator's sterile office. Mark across the table, looking gaunt. His charm evaporated. I don't want to fight, he said weakly. Good. Because I did, for custody, for the house, for every shred of stability for the kids. Vivian hovered on the periphery, calling Dad daily until he changed his number. She showed up at my door once, makeup smudged, begging forgiveness. You're my daughter, she sobbed. And he was my husband, I shot back, slamming the door. The neighborhood whispered, suburban scandals travel fast. Friends divided lines, some offering casseroles, others awkward silences. Alex threw himself into school. His videos now focused on positive stuff, skateboarding tricks, interviews with classmates. Therapy, he called it. Emily asked fewer questions about Daddy. Content with weekend visits, supervised by Jenna. But the emotional scars lingered. One night, over pizza, Alex opened up. I found the first clip by accident, he confessed. Mark had borrowed the camera for work vlogs, but left remnants, a 30-second snippet of Vivian in Ardennes, adjusting her blouse. Mark's voice off camera. We can't keep risking this. Alex had dug deeper, using free software to recover deleted files. It made me sick, he said, tears finally falling. But I couldn't let them keep lying. I reached for his hand. You saved us. Dad started healing too, joining a senior group, talking to a counselor. Life's too short for secrets, he told me during a visit. Vivian faded into isolation. Her perfect image cracked. Rumors said she was seeing a therapist, but I didn't care. Forgiveness? Maybe someday.
But not now.
The anger had morphed into resolve. I enrolled in night classes for a better job, redecorated the house, even dated casually once, nothing serious,
Just reclaiming my spark.
As spring bloomed, the family gathered for Emily's birthday. Minus the traitors. Laughter filled the air. Genuine this time. Alex filmed it, capturing joy instead of pain. Watching the playback later, I felt a flicker of hope. Betrayal had torn us, but truth had set us free.
Yet.
In quiet moments, I pondered, what drives someone to destroy their own blood? The question hung, unanswered, a shadow that made the light brighter. Months later, the divorce finalized in a quiet courtroom. Mark signing away his rights to the house with a defeated sigh. He moved to an apartment downtown, seeing the kids on alternate weekends. Vivian relocated to a condo in the city, her calls unanswered. Dad thrived, traveling with old friends, his heart mended by time and therapy. Our family, reshaped but stronger, found a new rhythm. Alex's videos gained traction online, honest stories about resilience, inspiring others. Emily adapted, her innocence intact. I started a blog, anonymous at first, sharing tales of survival. It connected me to women like me, rebuilding from ruins. But the scar remained, a reminder that love can blind, and blood doesn't guarantee loyalty. At Dad's next birthday, a small dinner, we toasted to truth. No videos this time, just presents. As we laughed, I glanced at Alex, my hero in disguise. What if he hadn't acted? The thought chilled me. Betrayal by those closest cuts deepest. But exposure brings dawn. And in that light, we heal. Questioning forever. How far would you go to protect your own?